And now we are moving on to the third passage. Okay, so please raise your hand who would like to read. Okay, Ashank, go ahead.
Don't miss the cloud behind a silver lining. The Class 12 CBSE pass result has scored to an all-time high of 88.8%. The number of students scoring 95% and above has more than doubled. If only these higher marks were a reflection of students getting more skilled and more competitive. Instead, the odds are they simply mirror an assessment scheme relaxed to compensate students for many disruptions originating in the pandemic. The goal of reducing the student stress level during this turbulent time is excellent and laudable, but it is a fallacy that high marks can accomplish this by themselves. The real stressor, after all, is the shortage of opportunities. When every bout of grade inflation raises cutoff for the higher education and even higher, it is no successor. India's gross enrollment ratio is 27% compared to Indonesia's 36%, Thailand's 49%, and the US for 88%. Is just one measure of the toll taken by our failure to build adequate colleges and universities. License Raj continues to suppress autonomy and expansion in this sector. For example, a new national education policy is reported mulling at least 20% of the students being able to attend a private higher education institutions through feeship and another 30% through scholarship. Besides, fees education institutions through feeship and another 30% through scholarship. Beside fee caps, on top of the status already rigged by reservations, this would be a disastrous browbeating the private sectors to make up for the public sector deficiencies in the counterproductive to in the raising the standard of publicly funded schools and universities essential. What the private options are plentiful, it is better prospect along with that will best alleviate students' stress. Meanwhile, crudely copying syllabus will only worsen their disorientation and should be reconsidered.
Okay, very good, Ashank. Now I will briefly explain what this passage is trying to say. So this passage is saying that higher grades doesn't equal higher intelligence. Higher grades sometimes just reflects the relaxation in the marking scheme. Okay, and sometimes what has happened in this particular case right now is that we see that in the results of class 12 CBSE this time, students scoring 95 and above is very, very high. Like, earlier scoring 95 above was something which happened very, very rarely, and maybe one or two students in the entire school would be scoring that. Nowadays you see like 95 is kind of like the bare minimum. Like if you don't score 95, then people are like, what happened, what went wrong, right? So even the uh, pass result has gone to 88.8%. That means like nearly 9 out of 10 students who are writing the exam is passing, only one is failing. In 100 you can say maybe 10 or 11 students are failing. That's really, really low. But does it reflect the kind of intelligence that actually is there in the country, or does it just show that teachers and the CBSE board are just passing everyone without really concerning much? Even in between they started giving grades rather than marks, just A, B, C, like the effort is basically to make people not feel like, oh, I am a failure, to encourage people, especially during the pandemic, these children, to keep up the morale of the children and say like, hey, look, you got such a good score, you passed, you did well, not to make them feel demoralized, oh, you failed, that kind of thing. But what they are saying is that this is not a measure of the success of your education system as a country, is it? because the real measure is your placement, enrollment, job opportunities. How many jobs, how many of those people who have actually passed the exam are getting jobs? What's the point of scoring 95% ultimately if you're going to be washing dishes in some restaurant, or driving a Hawa Hawaii, because there's no job available for you, right? You see many people who have got like great degrees. I remember when I was in NUJS, I had gone to the nearby chai wala, like the pan wala shop for a cold drink, and that guy asked me like, which college are you from? Where you? I said, I'm from NUJS. I'm studying law for a law degree. He said, oh, law degree, to even I have. And I was like, okay, oh no, you know what? Like, this is the condition of our education system in our country, that if you're not from NUJS, you have another law degree, you will be a panwala. Right. It's not just about the degree. It's not just about passing. It's about getting that job at the end of the day. That is why you all go to NLUs, right? Because you can get a LLB degree from any college in any city, wherever you are. You want to go to NLS, NUJS, NALSAR, any of these colleges because you have heard about these magic 15 lakh, 20 lakh rupee placements, which actually exist. I can tell you because I myself got one, right? It does exist, but it doesn't exist everywhere. It exists only at the absolute top of the pyramid. Okay. Now, if you compare with other countries like Thailand, etc., Indonesia, which is a far lower country in terms of development compared to India, but yet their placement is so high. So if you go to a college in the US, there's 88% chance that you will get a job. In India, probably it would be way, way lesser than that. Okay. And now they have kind of given some kind of solutions, okay, for this problem, right, that we are facing right now. In the last part of it, they have said what we need is an ecosystem where government institutions deliver quality education and private options are plentiful. It is better prospects alone that will best alleviate student stress. Meanwhile, crudely chopping syllabi will only worsen their disorientation and should be reconsidered. So what they're saying, solution is to provide an environment where the schools and colleges actually provide proper placement, and the government and the economy provide job opportunities. Because otherwise, just saying, oh, this was your earlier syllabus, now you have to study half because half the year is gone, and making the marking easier so that the student who was going to fail, now that student is going to pass. This is a very like kind of shallow kind of quick fix which will not last, because that student after going to college and after going to school with flying colors will find themselves jobless. Moving on, it is better prospects alone that will best alleviate students stress. Okay, so what they are saying is that you need to provide better job opportunities. You cannot just like go ahead and do whatever you feel like. Okay, so basically the need of the hour is a planned way. In a planned manner we need to proceed, and then only we can make a real change in the economic system of the country, and not just through formal means like chopping up the syllabi or passing everybody who may or may not have deserved to. Okay, so that is the passage. Now let's move on to the questions. Once again, whoever wants to answer, please raise your hand. Okay, Shantanu, go ahead.
Sir, in the third line, author has said that if only these higher marks were a reflection of students getting more skilled and more competitive. So by this we can conclude option C, that is scoring higher marks or percentages in school education does not guarantee skilled and competitive candidature for a student.
Correct. Okay, that's exactly the correct answer with the correct explanation as well. Okay, next. 117, please raise your hand. Go ahead, Ashank.
I think the option will be D, because here in the passage talks about the syllabus, reducing the syllabus. If the student don't want to study, whether the syllabus is reduced or more, it doesn't affect. First, so that's why option A is correct. And the student who want to study doesn't care about the syllabus also, as the writer wants to tell from saying that.
Yeah, go on.
By saying that the student don't care about the syllabus because they only care about the syllabus. They only care, they only care about their marks and grades. So option B will be also be correct. And for C,
Yeah, you're doing well. Go ahead.
uh, and option C, just writer wants to say that reducing the syllabus is not a target of achieving the goal. If the syllabus is more also or less also, the student have to study. So that's it. I think option C I explained wrong.
Anybody else wants to try? Okay, Shantanu, go ahead.
So option C is given in the last line of the passage, which said, crudely chopping syllabi will only worsen their disorientation and should be reconsidered. And and so rest of the points Ashok explained correctly. That's why all of the above is correct.
Right. Okay, that's correct. Good. So together, both of you have gotten all the options correct. Fine. Next, 118. Yeah, Shantanu.
Sir, it's an inference based question. If we read the passage, then we can conclude that all the options A, B, and C serve as a plausible explanation for why the number of students scoring more than 95% have more than doubled. That's it, sir.
Right. So you can see that plausible means what? Plausible means a likely explanation. Okay. Possible or probable. Okay. That's plausible. Okay. Definitely the simplest explanation, which the author also hopes that it's true, that is, students have started studying better, more, and they are more intelligent. Secondly, he or she has also mentioned that evaluation of answer scripts has become a bit easier in the passage if you read, and it has also said that the marking scheme has kind of reduced, so the papers are easier to solve, the level is a bit easier. Okay, so all these reasons have been mentioned in passage, so all are plausible explanations. All right, now 119. Yes, Mimansha.
I think option D is correct, which says that option 2 and option 4 are correct. And the option says building adequate number of public colleges and universities and creating a quality based education system. It can be taken from the passage, and it is written on the last fourth line. And the line says, what the students need is an ecosystem where government institutions deliver quality education and private options are plentiful. So option D is correct.
Right, correct answer. Good. Next, last question for this passage. Yes, go ahead.
So option B is correct. If we look at option A, so it is nowhere mentioned that scoring higher marks will help in reducing stress among students. And similarly, the author has not stated that private institutions should not be regulated. In fact, he has spoken towards it that they should be regulated. And similarly, author has not stated that the license route should be done away with.
Hmm. And
He
what do you
has
think? What do you think is the reason for option being be the answer? Like, why is it? How can it be inferred? Okay, like if I say like if you eat like 10 samosas, then you can infer that you will get a stomach upset, right? And how you can infer, because samosas, of course, like they are very spicy and oily kind of snacks. So obviously, like they will make your stomach upset, which cannot handle such amount of food, right? So same way, if I ask you, how can you infer high cutoff marks also contribute in reducing opportunities for students from the passage? Yes, Priyanshu.
Sir, actually, the first half of the passage talks about this only. If we go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth line,
Yeah.
at the end of the fifth line, the goal of the reducing student stress levels during this turbulent time is excellent and laudable. Here it mentions the reduction of syllabus, but it is a fallacy that high marks can accomplish this by themselves. The real stressor, after all, is the shortage of opportunities when every bout of grade inflation raises cutoffs for higher education even higher. It is no sugar. It doesn't help.
Right. And why it doesn't help is because there are just more people at the top now. Okay. Like, for example, if the, like, for example, in your CLAT this time, okay, the cutoffs were so low that anyone who got, like, let's say a 90 plus or a 95 plus was pretty much like sure shot and less. Okay. But if everybody got 145 plus in the exam, because the paper was very easy, they were asking questions like 2 plus 2 is equal to what and this, that. Okay. Then everyone started scoring very, very high. So everyone would score at least 145. So then it didn't help matters, right? Because there was just a huge congestion at the top now. There was a huge bottleneck at the top. So it became that much harder for the recruiters to understand who is a good candidate and who is a bad candidate when everyone is getting 95 plus, right? In the CBSE. Earlier, to get into a good college, probably, like, I think, like in our parents' time and all, I heard that if somebody got 50% or 60%, that was like considered really, really good. For example, even in NUJS, okay, there is a grading scheme, and the highest you can score, not the highest you can score, but the highest grade possible is an E. Okay, that's an excellent. Below that, there's A plus, then A, then B plus, then B, like that. Okay, so the highest grade is E, and E is available at 75%. Okay, A plus is 70, A is 65, B plus is 60, like that. Okay, so in order to get the highest grade possible in NUJS, you have to get 75 out of 100. So whether you get 75 or you get 95, you will get E only, because nobody gets a 95. Okay. But so that's why if the recruiter sees a NUJS students report card which has got like out of 50 subjects in 5 years, if they have got like 30 E's, okay, that's a very, very easy call for the recruiter to hire them directly. Okay. Because there would probably be one person in the entire batch with that many E's. Okay. Now, if everybody has got 45 E's out of 50, the recruiter doesn't have any parameter in which to judge, in which to select. So actually, life becomes tougher when you give everybody very, very high marks. Okay. That's what they're trying to talk about here. All right.